Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
KC50ZT, does anybody need to use a repeater before we begin the Skynet? My name is Carolyn, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And please remember to tell others about this popular net. And all amateurs, you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. and that is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, or where and when you can look through a telescope, the National Space Society events with N5BB, discussion topic of the evening, what can you see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical questions and answers, and the 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are welcome to check in, but let's start with the first round for low power and short time check-ins. Please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Have any low power or short time check-ins? Apparently not, so let's move on to the general check-ins. Please come now.
This is November 5 Bravo Bravo. Bill in Irving. Tango Mike, Tony, low power portable and down.
Alpha November Papa, Allen in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey John in Coppell.
WB5 OZL, Brenda in DeSoto.
Golf 5 Vector Julio Papa, Robert and Richardson.
Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas. Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Kilo Golf 5 Zulu Golf Quebec, Andre in Dallas.
India, Charlie, X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Okay, let me pick these up first, and the net recognizes N5BB, Bill, NT5TM, Tony, WA5MD, I believe it was Ken or Carl, I can't tell, and K5ANT, Alan, K5JDW, John, WB5OZL, Brenda, K25VJP, I may need your name, again, please.
Yeah, Kilo Golf 5 Vector Julio Papa, Robert and Richardson.
Okay, Robert. Sorry, I scribbled so I couldn't read it. Alright, KG5EIU, David, KF5ZBL, Bill, W5EBB, David, KG5ZGQ, Andre, and KG5ICX, Tom. Do we have any other check-ins? Please come now.
WW2 CBI, Ron, Fairview.
The net recognizes WW2 CBI, Ron, and that last station you weren't very clear. Could you come again phonetically, please?
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, Fort Worth.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike Zulu. Alright, well thank you and for checking in. Alright, we'll go to anybody wishing to check in by Echolink.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jaden Air Weatherford.
This is November 5, Yankee Echo Oscar. Stephen, San Antonio.
This is November 5, Golf India Tango, Tom in San Antonio.
AAVSO on Echolink.
This is KG5 Zulu Lima Mike in Fort Worth.
Jay, N5YEO, Stephen, N5GIT, Tom. Alright, we'll now take a round of check-ins by any means, short power, general, or Echolink. Please come now.
KG5 PSN, recheck.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Zulu Lima Mike Hector in Fort Worth via Echolink.
The net recognizes KG5ZLM Hector, and I see KG5ZCT. ZCT, David in Frisco. Alright, and the station that came back to me there, can you give me your call again?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, recheck.
Go with your recheck.
see him in. I think he's something down in the sewer for the last character, maybe 5 p.m.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for letting me know there. All right. We'll be having further rounds of check-ins as we go along, but first let's move on to general announcements. Any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomy, space, or general interest licensed hams.
Tango Mike.
NT5KM, Tony, go ahead.
I'd like to remind everyone that this is not our last net of the evening. We do have an Afterglow movie discussion net coming up tonight at 10:30 or so on this repeater. Tonight's topic of discussion is the 1963 B movie, The Yesterday Machine. More information is available at the Afterglow movie Facebook group. Meet and share information with your fellow hams on the air. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air will take place tomorrow. That's Sunday at 7 p.m. right here on this repeater. This is open to all club members and any guests who'd like to join us. You don't have to be a member. You just have to enjoy sharing what's been going on in your ham world. That's tomorrow here at 7. Other thing I'd like to mention about tomorrow is that the Dallas Amateur Radio Club is having a radio play day in the park at Custer Park in Richardson tomorrow at 1 p.m. That's tomorrow at 1 p.m. at Custer Park in Richardson. No club membership or particular plan is required. Just bring whatever you want, do whatever you want that's radio related and legal, and have fun with your fellow hams. That's tomorrow, Custer Park in Richardson at 1 p.m. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club Field Day event is on. We are going back to our traditional location at Flagpole Hill. There were a lot of details that had to be worked out, but our Field Day chair, Randy, KE5GIT, has done an outstanding job of getting those things taken care of. If you're interested in helping out, volunteering to help out, please email info, I-N-F-O, at W5FC.org. So, lots going on. Spring is a fun time at ham radio. This is NT5TM.
Thank you for that, Tony. Does anyone have any questions? And I would also like to mention that if you're interested in satellite work, we have the AMSAT. That's a Radio Amateur Satellite Group. It has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., you need Echolink to be installed and be registered, and you can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, and then we have a Dallas AMSAT net for this area every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 with a 110.9 PL tone, positive offset. First, we have the other DARC nets through the week. This week it'll be the Ham Fixins net, and Wednesdays at 7, the Veterans net. Of course, on Saturdays, TechNet, Skynet, and the Afterglow net. And then every night we have the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net at 6:30 p.m. Everybody's welcome to check into any or all of these nets. Calling to the Skynet tonight, we'll have the Afterglow net. And Tom, would you like to give the information on that to KC50ZT?
Yes, I will. Tonight's Afterglow movie net is, as Tony mentioned, the Yesterday Machine. This week we'll travel to the movie capital of the universe, Texas, where we'll pull out the old time machine, lovingly built by an ex-Nazi Professor Ernest Fons, and dramatically discovered by Police Lieutenant Partain and Detective Lasky! Exclamation point. But wait, there's more. Bond wants to bring back bell-bottom polyester pants, avocado green refrigerators, cars without seatbelts, and Adolf Hitler. Which one of these things doesn't belong? Find out tonight at 10:30 p.m. when we watch the SF and discuss, the SF masterpiece, in quotes, The Yesterday Machine, in quotes, from 1963. That's it from me, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And does anyone have any questions? We'll move on to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Where and when you can look through a telescope. Do we have anybody that can give this information tonight? I have a feeling they're all at the Star Party down in, so the Texas Astronomical Society's monthly meetings are held on the fourth Friday of every month except December at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building. That's SLC on the campus map. And important, only parking lots H, I, or J. Parking anywhere else can result in a ticket. And there's a campus map, like I said, that where you can see this, or on the Google map. The meeting includes programs presented by members, guest speakers, slideshow of the Constellation of the month, and items for sales like t-shirts, books, observing aids. You can find out more about the TAS of Dallas at www.texasastro, that's TEXASASTRO, all one word, .org. And they host observing parties every Saturday night, beginning at sunset and concluding around 10 p.m. Each week is a different location, so make sure you get the complete details for the Saturday night you wish to attend at the website that I mentioned. If you go there and select calendar for complete details. And I'm not sure where the party was tonight, but anyway, you can go to the website and find out. All right, now tonight we'd like to also include a session on the National Space Society events. So N5BB, would you like to take that? KH50ZT.
Very good, Carolyn and Annette. This is N5BB. The next local meeting, the North Texas section of the National Space Society, will meet a week from tomorrow on Mother's Day, Sunday, May the 13th, at the Spring Creek Barbecue at Beltline and 183 in Irving. The meeting starts around 3:30 p.m. So you can eat and then see the meeting. And the normal situation is that there is a presentation by somebody, usually around an hour, followed by the business meeting. So it's May the 13th, Sunday afternoon. As far as other activities, the National Space Society has a big meeting every year. This year it is in California, I believe, coming up here later in May. Other issues, other items that are there, I'm looking for my notes here. I was kind of distracted by some other things. So let me find them now. Here we go. So, the National Space Development Conference I mentioned is May the 24th to 27th. So that's coming up. Frank Drake, who's behind the famous Drake equation about extraterrestrial life, will be speaking, as well as other people, a number of other people. Freeman Dyson and many other well-known people there. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and Blue Origin, will also be there. So, let's see, what else? The Alliance for Space Development was successful in following up with representatives from Texas to the U.S. House for pushing space issues. So they worked with representatives here in Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston to push for space-related items. National Space Society has a brand new website, which is at space.nss.org. That's space.nss.org. What else? So, I've got some other smaller items, but I'll ignore those. There was a, Tom wanted me to read, I believe, there was a, this is not really space related, this is kind of kook related. There's a guy whose name is Mad Mike Hughes, who has been trying to shoot rockets off. He first had a horizontal kind of rocket trip in Arizona a couple of years ago. He was trying to get funding to go up in the air, but he was unable to get any funding. So he then decided to push the Flat Earth Society. So now he says he's going up above the surface of the Earth to prove that the Earth is a pancake. So his latest attempt worked in the Mojave Desert near Amboy, California. This is a couple hundred miles east of Los Angeles. On March the 26th of this year. And he had tried to go up earlier in November. It failed first because he did not get permission from the Bureau of Land Management, and then because he had some mechanical problems. But he did go up on March the 26th, I believe, to about 1,800 feet altitude in a steam-powered rocket. Unfortunately, his parachutes, although he did have parachutes, It was a hard landing, and he was carted off by an ambulance. Evidently, he was not seriously injured. Mike Hughes is a 61-year-old limousine driver. And again, he originally had no connections with the Flat Earth Society, but because he couldn't get any money, he now says he has Flat Earth beliefs, and he's able to get donations because of that group. Anyway, that's about it. He wants to go higher. He thinks he can go up above 60,000 feet. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he insists he can go up to, 68 miles, about 360,000 feet. This is N5BB. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Anybody else wishing to check in before we move on to the topic?
Double with you, Carolyn. This is N5BB.
Okay, station, try again.
I had just a humorous comment on Bill's last news item there that he would have done better to go to flight school because any aircraft can get higher than that. Probably hotter balloons can go higher than that. NT5 PM.
Roger, the skyhook balloons. Okay, any more questions then? I'm moving on to my topic tonight. It's not long, but it was something that I thought important enough for anybody that wanted to try observing. As you know, we've mentioned dwarf novas before. They'll flare up in one night and go on back down. But we have an unusual one that is flared up, and its name is V392 Persei. It's usually a dwarf nova and only gets as bright as magnitude 14 during an outburst. But it appears to have undergone a rare nova outburst. And Tom is showing a chart of where to find it. And let me reset. Now, to see this, you would have to, I checked with the stellarium. This is in the northwest, and you'd practically have to have a very clear horizon, and it doesn't get really dark enough till about 9 or later, and there's a narrow window in there before, between getting dark and that section of the sky setting. But you might have an hour or maybe 2 to look for it. But this sudden and steep brightening was discovered on a photograph April 29th by Yuji Nakamura of Japan, who recorded the star at magnitude 6.2. Now, spectra obtained shortly afterward at Kit Peak confirmed the explosion as a nova. All right. Had the moon not brightened the sky, the outburst would have been actually visible with the naked eye from any DARC site. And as of the morning of May 1st, it's faded to magnitude 7, but remains an easy catch in binoculars. And right now, there's no telling whether it will brighten further, continue to fade, or hit a standstill. One thing is, dwarf nova very rarely explode as nova, so this is something very special. And I encourage you to grab your binoculars for a look. And it's a sort of an explanation of some of this. Dwarf nova are binary stars, or the more massive star, that's a white dwarf, robs matter from a closely orbiting lower mass companion. As this material spins into an accretion disk around the white dwarf, variations in its flow and temperature can cause it to periodically heat up and brighten. If you're looking through a telescope, this star can swell 2 to 6 magnitudes in just a day or two. And catching one on the rise after seeing it at minimum for weeks is very exciting for amateur astronomy. And we've mentioned two of the most famous in when I give their constellations. In the winter sky, you can see Geminorum and Gemini. In summer, you can see Cygni, and of course, the Swan. And to show how rare this is, only once in the history of dwarf nova observations as a star, it goes by the name V392 CEN for Centaurus, transition to a nova. Now, in a nova, material from the disk gets dumped onto the surface of the white star where it's compressed and heated to ignite in a much more powerful and brighter explosion. So our new V392 shot up nearly 9 magnitudes and may brighten even more. Like I say, it's usually at magnitude 14 it's brightest, varying between magnitude 14 and 16, and it had shot up to 6 that night. And eruptions like this are predicted to recur on time scales of 10,000 to 1 million years. Now, if you want to stay in touch with its daily behavior, you can go to the AAVSO website and type in its name and pick a star box. Then select a link to either review recent observations, make a new light curve, or even create a chart. However, I did create two for Tom to put on the website. And first one is one, well, they both go by the name V392 PER, but the first one that's on the screen now isn't what's called an A chart, because it shows a wide area of the sky. Now, if you're familiar with Capella, or we're with Auriga, that constellation. And by the way, these are printed with south at the top, so you have to hold them up that side down, or orient them. But that bright star is the one that has the 3 They're called the Three Kids, just to the right of it, on star charts. And maybe that'll help you orient you. And the circle in the middle of the chart is the nova. And you notice it's right in between a 8.7 magnitude star, 8.4 magnitude star. So that gives you a good comparison. Then the other chart is what's called an AB chart. You can use it with binoculars, but as it gets fainter, you can use this to go on down with telescopes and compare the brightness with nearby stars. So I hope these two charts will help make your observing more informative, and really making estimates can be valuable. But let me reset. And like I said, if you start from Epsilon Auriga, and that's a star at the point of the kids, the three stars next to Capella, you can star hop to the northwest past there's a pair of stars on the map, and there's a nova. And so this is getting into detailed observing, but this is maybe a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But there's a 9.3 magnitude star just east of it. That's a nice comparison star. And you can click on the AAVSO website, you can click and print your charts from there. And then as an update, the guy that wrote the article estimated that the V392 had dimmed about magnitude 8.3 by May 2nd. But you never know, it may brighten again, and it's definitely worth taking a look at. And some people have asked how far away it is, and the astronomers used the star's parallax from a survey, and I think it's only about 12,700 light years away, quite a few years away, but still close compared to the usual stars, or a lot of stars anyway. So this is definitely worth going out, like I say, in the northwest, and probably around between 9 and 10 is the best time. So does anyone have any questions?
EBB.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I did a web search for V392, and if you look under the shopping tab, there are watch batteries, Vera Wang glasses, a standard PVC valve that looks like a comlink from Star Wars, and a Civil Defense Package hospital bedpan, product CD V392. Can you give me the rest of the website URL, please? W5EVB.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's technically it'd be V392 and then PER, but you can say AAVSO for their website, or Sky and Telescope. They were the ones that printed the article, that published the article on their newsletter. That might be a better way to find it.
All right. Thanks. Thank you a lot. W5EBB.
Okay, Rip. And hope you can find it. Any other questions or comments? But anyway, I'll try to keep everybody updated maybe for during the week. But for next week, if I see more news about it. This is KH50ZT. All right, before we move on, do we have any other check-ins?
Is November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen.
And 5WOI, good evening, William, and welcome to the net. Anybody else? And, we'll move on then. This is KH50ZT, and Tom, would you like to take what you can see in the sky for the next couple of weeks?
Oh, absolutely, Miss Carolyn. This is KE5ICX. And let's see, what do we have tonight? I wish I were this smart. I'm not. But you can go to earthsky.org/tonight, find this information out. They do publish several days out as well, so not only do you get what you see tonight, but tomorrow night, the night after, and the night after that. So this is what they have for us tonight. If you want to go ahead and see the charts, these are always helpful. You can go to w5fc.org or the website I just mentioned and click on Southeast after midnight. If you're watching the stream, you can see it directly. So from around the world tonight, May 5th, if you're a night owl, you might catch the moon and the red planet Mars climbing above your horizon before your bedtime. From mid-northern latitudes, that's the U.S., Canada, Europe, and Russia, the twosome won't rise until after midnight. From the southern hemisphere, they will be up by late evening, and they will give you all the rising time of the moon and Mars in the sky. And there's a website for that, but of course we're not in that area. Mars is the planet to watch for 2018. By July, it'll be brighter in our sky than it's been since 2003. There is a chart, a cycle of oppositions of Mars, and why every 15 or so years we see Mars as the brightest object in the sky. That's at opposition. Mars is closest to the Earth about every 2 years when Earth passes between this planet and the Sun. The event is called Mars opposition because at such times Mars appears opposite the Sun in our sky. There's also a 15-year cycle of close and far Mars oppositions, and this chart is showing. Notice that in 2018, Mars will be especially close. The reason is that Mars opposition is July 27th at its perihelion. When it's closest to the Sun is relatively soon afterwards on September 16th. In 2018, Mars will be closer and brighter than it's been since 2003. More, you'll see two other bright planets in the pre-dawn sky. That would be Saturn and Jupiter. And there's a picture of that, Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius. As the cream-colored Jupiter is further away from Mars and the Moon on the May 6th morning, but Jupiter is unmistakably bright. In fact, in May 2018, dazzling Jupiter shines nearly all night. watch for Jupiter in your eastern sky at nightfall. Then watch for Jupiter to climb highest for the night around midnight and then sit low in the west at the morning dawn. Earth will fly more or less between Jupiter and the Sun, bringing Jupiter to its annual opposition on May 8th and 9th. In the southern hemisphere, or the northern tropics, you'll have a reasonably good chance of catching Mercury, the innermost planet of our solar system. Look east near the sunrise point on the horizon as the pre-dawn darkness is giving way to the morning dawn. The moon will be in the vicinity of Mercury on May 12th and 13th, as shown in the chart that I'm showing now. Note that the first chart is also in the southern hemisphere. The second chart is of the northern hemisphere, where the view is nowhere near as good. You can also see Venus, the brightest planet of all, for an hour or two in the evening sky this month. Venus shines opposite Jupiter in the evening pre-dawn sky. Evening dusk on May 2018 and sits between the western horizon by nightfall or early evening. So the bottom line is, don't miss the moon and Mars together in the pre-dawn sky on May 6th. Plus, word about the other bright planets you can see in May. All right, sometimes I think he's on drugs or something because that didn't at times make any sense, and I read it word for word. Honest, I did. So let's go to the U.S. Naval Observatory, what you can see in the sky this week. This is what they're saying. We apologize if you weren't able to find us last week. We've been having issues with our web servers while we continue to troubleshoot. We thank you for your patience. They say the moon moves into the morning sky this week, scuttling above the southern horizon as she wends her way through the summer constellations and the rising stars of autumn. Last quarter occurs on the 7th at 10:09 Eastern Daylight. Luna may be found in the vicinity of Saturn on the mornings of the 4th and 5th. Look for ruddy Mars just 2 degrees south of the moon before dawn on the morning of the 6th. First is one of the 4 cross-quarter days that appear in traditional seasonal calendars. Many of us are aware of the 2 others, which are widely observed in the U.S. They are Halloween and Groundhog Day. The cross-quarter days and seasonal astronomical dates of solstice and equinoxes were the anchors of the annual cycle of the seasons and the predate of the establishment of many calendars. The origins of these celebrations date back over 1,000 years and were important dates in many cultures. Celebrated by the Floralia in the days of the Roman Republic, it was observed at the Beltane by the European pagans. It was Christianized by German tribes in the 9th century as a celebration of the feast day of Saint Walburga, and an 8th century abbess who brought the new religion to Germany is often thought of as the first day of summer, and it is still widely observed with rituals such as the crowning May Queens, dancing around maypoles, and general merrymaking. In addition to traditional observations, May Day is, in more recent times, become synonymous with the holiday for laborers that is widely observed, particularly in countries with socialist or communist societies. Move into the nights of the astronomical spring, we have to wait later and later to enjoy the fully dark night sky. Astronomical evening twilight now ends shortly before 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight, and by this time, bright stars of the winter constellations are dipping below the western horizon. At this time, you'll find one of springtime's most familiar star patterns nearly directly overhead. Everybody can guess it. It's the Big Dipper asterism. Is one of the most familiar patterns in the sky, even though none of its 7 stars are brighter than second magnitude. The Dipper is in the smallest part of the sprawling constellation of Ursa Major, the Great Bear. If you ignore the bear's preposterously long tail made by a handle of the Dipper, you can also make out a respectable bear when viewing the sky from a dark sky sight. This is one of my favorite areas to peruse with my large Dobsonian telescope. The space between the stars is full of faint smudges of light, the signatures of dozens of distant galaxies set in fantastically remote distances. Now on to the planets. Venus continues to climb higher in the western sky as evening twilight fades to darkness. The dazzling planet sets over half an hour after the end of twilight, so if you have plenty of time to find her cheery glow as she drifts through the setting stars of Taurus the Bull. Jupiter reaches opposition from the Sun on May 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight. At this time, a giant planet lies exactly opposite the Sun in the sky, rising at sunset and setting in sunrise the next morning. This is also the time when old Job is as close to us as he'll get this year. Close is a relative term, though. Light from Jupiter's cloud tops takes just over 36 minutes to reach us. This KE5ICX. Saturn gets a visit from the waning gibbous moon on the mornings of the 4th and 5th. The best time to view the ring planet is still before sunrise, when you'll find him crossing the meridian as the sky slowly brightens. His rings are tipped close to their maximum, to their line of sight, and should be easy to spot just about in any telescope. And lastly, Mars continues to pull eastward away from Saturn, but his pace is beginning to slow as he approaches the first stationary object point in this year's opposition. His disk is also steadily growing, and owners of modest telescopes should be able to glimpse details of his dusty face on mornings with steady air. As with Saturn, your best view of him will be before sunrise. And that's it from me and the U.S. Naval Observatory and what you can see in the sky this evening. Back to you, Miss Carolyn. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And again, does any have any questions, or does anybody wish to check in? We'll move on to tonight's constellation, and this goes by the name of Coma Berenic, or Berenice's hair. This is the name for it. It used to be an asterism in Leo, and it represented the tuft of hair at the end of the lion's tail. But in 16th century, it became a constellation in its own right. It's not large, but it has a number of famous deep sky objects. It's home to the North Galactic Pole, and it's the 42nd constellation in size. I wonder why it's called Berenice's hair. It's associated with Queen Berenice of Egypt, who had married Ptolemy III. He went on a dangerous mission and worried for her husband's life. The queen swore to Aphrodite that she would cut off her beautiful long blonde hair if the goddess brought him home safely. And once he returned, Berenice fulfilled her promise, cut off her hair and placed it in Aphrodite's temple. However, the hair disappeared the next day, and this made the king furious. So, to appease him, a quick-thinking court astronomer said that Aphrodite was so pleased with the offering that she had placed it in the sky, and he pointed out to the king the group of stars that have since been known as Berenice's hair. And we'll look first at a couple of the stars. Alpha, or also known as Diadem, is actually the second brightest star at magnitude 4.3, but it represents the gem in the crown, in the queen's crown. a binary star composed of two class Fs, both around magnitude 5, and they appear nearly edge-on. As they go around each other, it looks like they're moving back and forth in a straight line, eclipsing each other. And the brightest star is Beta. It's at magnitude 4.26, and it's a main sequence dwarf star, but it's pretty close, about 30 light years away. And it's similar to our sun, only slightly larger and brighter. But the highlight of Coma Berenices is deep sky objects, galaxies mainly. The first one we'll look at is M64. It goes by the name, several names: the Black Eye Galaxy, Sleeping Beauty Galaxy, or the Evil Eye Galaxy. It's a spiral galaxy at magnitude 9.3, and it's a popular object among amateurs, and it's easily observed with small telescopes. The galaxy has a bright nucleus, as you can see, and a dark band of dust in front of it. That earned it the nickname the Evil Eye. And this galaxy is unusual in that the gas in its outer regions rotate in the opposite direction from the stars and gas in the inner regions. Astronomers speculate that this could be the result of M64 having absorbed a smaller satellite galaxy about 1 billion years ago. The inner region is only about 3,000 light years in radius, while the outer parts extend another 40,000 light years. And the region separating these two parts is full of star formation. The next object is NGC 4565. It's known as the Needle Galaxy. It's one of the most famous edge-on spiral galaxies in the sky. It's magnitude 10.4. And I mean edge-on. It lies exactly above the North Galactic Pole. That's, you know how the galaxy is rotating. Well, it has a North Pole too, and which happens to be here close to the Needle Galaxy. And it's based on the shape of the central bulge. Astronomers believe that it's a barred spiral galaxy, and it's 16 arc minutes in length. This is the largest apparent length of any edge-on galaxy discovered. Of course, we haven't gotten to Virgo yet, and the Virgo cluster of galaxies, but Coma has there's a cluster of galaxies called the Coma cluster, north of the Virgo cluster. But it's more remote, between 230 to 300 million light years away. But it contains about 1,000 large galaxies, and believe another 30,000 smaller ones. And the brightest galaxies are in the group are about magnitude 13, so you definitely need a large scope. But some of the notable members are NGC 4889, 4874, 4921. That's one of the few spirals and the brightest spiral galaxy in the cluster. says KH50ZT. Our next object is M53. It's a globular star cluster. At magnitude 8.3, it's very round in shape and with a very bright center. But it is one of the more distant globulars known, and the stars in the cluster are mostly metal poor. It is the brightest Messier object in the constellation, and it is one that you can see with binoculars. Like I mentioned, we do have the Virgo cluster of galaxies, which extends into this constellation. And there are several galaxies that fall into the Virgo cluster. It's these next few: M100, M85, M99, M88, M91. We'll look first at M100, a grand design spiral galaxy at magnitude 10.1. It has a brilliant core, two main spiral arms, and a number of less prominent ones, and a few dust lanes. But the galaxy lies in the Virgo cluster and one of the brightest members. It also has the largest apparent size, and it was one of the first spiral galaxies ever discovered. And it's worth keeping an eye on because supernova have been observed in this galaxy. And it has a satellite galaxy of its own, very faint, but and then our next galaxy is M85, a lenticular galaxy, which is about magnitude 10, and it's one of the most distant Messier objects, about 60 million light years away. It's the northernmost member of the Virgo cluster, but again, if you have a scope big enough, the supernova was discovered here in December of 1960. Plus, it's interacting with two smaller neighbors, the spiral galaxy 4394 and one called MCG 3-12-38. Apparently a pretty faint one. The member of the group is bright red, M99, unbarred spiral at magnitude 10.4, about 50 million light years away. And again, worth watching. 3 supernovae have been observed in the galaxy. It's believed to have been distorted by the nearby possible dark galaxy, Virgo H121, to which it appears to be linked by a bridge of hydrogen gas. And then we have 2 more, M88, an ice spiral galaxy, magnitude 10. It produces narrow spectral line emissions from highly ionized gas in the nucleus. It has multiple spiral arms, a supermassive black hole in its center, 80 million times the mass of the sun. And our final object is M98, intermediate elongated spiral galaxy at a magnitude 11. And it's just 1.5 degrees west-northwest of M99. And it's another one that appears almost edge-on with a small core and faint spiral arms. But this might be a small constellation, but it's loaded with deep sky objects, and most of them are in the range of amateur scope. So it's definitely worth taking a tour through this constellation. Before I move on, are there any questions or comments? Do you have any check-in?
Is Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas long time.
The net does recognize Ted, WB4MFI, and welcome to the net. All right, we'll move on to recent astronomical discussion. WB50ZL, the net is yours, KT50Z2.
Thanks, Carolyn. This is WB50ZL. First article is Old Data, New Tricks. Fresh results from NASA's Galileo spacecraft 20 years on. From far across the solar system, from where Earth appears merely as a pale blue dot, NASA's Galileo spacecraft spent 8 years orbiting Jupiter. During that time, the hardy spacecraft, slightly larger than a full-grown giraffe, sent back spades of discoveries on the gas giant's moons, including the observation of a magnetic environment around Ganymede that was distinct from Jupiter's own magnetic field. The mission ended in 2003, but newly resurrected data from Galileo's first flyby of Ganymede is yielding new insights about the moon's environment, which is unlike any other in the solar system. Now coming back over 20 years later to take a new look at some of the data that was never published and finish the story, said Lynn Collinson, lead author of a recent paper about Ganymede's magnetosphere at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. We found there's a whole piece no one knew about. The new results showed a stormy scene. Particles blasted off the moon's icy surface as a result of incoming plasma rain, and strong flows of plasma pushed between Jupiter and due to an explosive magnetic event occurring between the two bodies' magnetic environments. Scientists think these observations could be key to unlocking the secrets of the moon, such as why Ganymede's auroras are so bright. In 1996, shortly after arriving at Jupiter, Galileo made a surprising discovery. Ganymede had its own magnetic field. While most planets in our solar system, including Earth, have magnetic environments known as magnetospheres, no one expected a moon to have one. Between 96 and 2000, Galileo made targeted flybys of Ganymede with multiple instruments collecting data on the moon's magnetosphere. These included the spacecraft's plasma subsystem, or POS, which measured the density, temperature, and direction of the plasma, excited electrically charged gas flowing through the environment around Galileo. New results published recently in the journal Geophysical Research Letters revealed interesting details about the magnetosphere's unique structure. We know that Earth's magnetosphere, in addition to helping make compasses work and causing auroras is key to in sustaining life on our planet because it helps protect our planet from radiation coming from space. Some scientists think Earth's magnetosphere was also essential for the initial development of life, as this harmful radiation can erode our atmosphere. Studying magnetospheres throughout the solar system not only helps scientists learn about the physical processes affecting this magnetic environment around Earth, it helps us understand the atmospheres around other potentially habitable worlds, both in our own solar system and beyond. Ganymede's magnetosphere offers the chance to explore a unique magnetic environment located within the much larger magnetosphere of Jupiter. Nestled there, it's protected from the solar wind, making its shape different from other magnetospheres in the solar system. Typically, magnetospheres are shaped by the pressure of supersonic solar wind particles flowing past them. But at Ganymede, the relatively slower-moving plasma around Jupiter sculpts the moon's magnetosphere into a long, horn-like shape that stretches ahead of the moon in the direction of its orbit. Past Ganymede, Galileo is continually pummeled by high-energy particles. Battering the moon is also familiar with. Plasma particles accelerated by the Jovian magnetosphere continually rain down on Ganymede's poles, where the magnetic field channels them towards the surface. The new analysis of Galileo PLS data showed plasma being blasted off the moon's icy surface due to the incoming plasma rain. There are these particles flying out from the polar regions, and they can tell us something about Ganymede's atmosphere, which is very thin, said Bill Patterson, co-author of the study at NASA Goddard, who served on the Galileo PLS team during the mission. It can also tell us about how Ganymede's auroras form. Really long article. I think I'll stop and go on to the other article. It's entitled, Recent Work Challenges View of Early Mars, Picturing a Warm Desert with Occasional Rain. The climate of early Mars is a subject of debate. While it has been thought that Mars had a warm and wet climate like Earth, other researchers suggested early Mars might have been largely glaciated. A recent study by Ramses Ramirez from the Earth Life Science Institute, the Tokyo Institute of Technology in Japan, and Robert Craddock from the National Air and Space Museum's Center for Earth and Planetary Studies suggests that the early Martian surface may not have been dominated by ice, but instead it may have been modestly warm and prone to rain, with only small patches of ice. While there is little debate about whether water previously existed on Mars, the debate regarding what the climate of Mars was like around 9 billion years ago has persisted for decades. Mars has a surprisingly diverse landscape made up of valley networks, lake basins, and possible ocean shorelines. These ancient fluvial features all provide clues that early Mars may have had a warm and wet climate similar to Earth. However, this idea has changed. First, the amount of solar energy entering the atmosphere at the time was considered to be too low to support a warm and wet climate. Secondly, recent climate studies have argued that Mars's ancient fluvial features can be accounted for with an icy climate, where widespread surfaces of ice promoted cooling by reflecting solar radiation. Occasional warming events would have triggered large amounts of ice melt and fluvial activity as a result. However, Ramses Ramirez and Robert Craddock suggest that early Mars was probably warm and wet and not so icy after a careful geological and climatological analysis revealed little evidence of widespread glaciation. Recently, the author's study, published in Nature Geoscience, argues that volcanic activity on a relatively unglaciated planet could explain Mars's fluvial features. Volcanic eruptions releasing CO2, H2, and CH4 may have contributed to the greenhouse effect, which may in turn have promoted warming, precipitation, including rain, and the flow of water that carved out the valleys and fluvial features. However, this climate would not have been as warm and wet as Earth, with precipitation rates of around 10 centimeters per year or less, similar to Earth's semi-arid regions. The starry climate suggests that small amounts of ice deposits could have also existed, although these would have been thin and liable to melt, contributing to the fluvial system. All right, that's it. Back to Nat. This is WB5OZL. These are both from ScienceDaily.com.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. And does anyone have any questions? We'll move on. Well, Kelly is not here tonight. Tom, did you have anything for space exploration or history?
I do not have anything prepared. I can tell you that there was the launch of the, hang on a sec. I don't know. If Tony's there, he may be able to give the announcement. He did mention that we do have the InSight lander on its way to Mars. This was launched earlier this morning, which was pretty cool. I watched part of it, at least after it had been in orbit. The powerful Delta V rocket that took it launched out of the West Coast, which I think is the first time that a Mars probe has actually been launched from the West Coast as opposed to out of Cape Canaveral, which is quite amazing in and of itself. Also, don't forget, tomorrow is the 58th anniversary of the day that Alan Shepard went up like a cannonball and came down like a cannonball on his suborbital mission. So both of those events. That's all I have for now. Oh, there is one other thing. I'm going by memory. The Dragon spacecraft has separated from the International Space Station. I believe that was yesterday. No, that was this morning, and is headed back to Earth. So it will splash down with a number of scientific experiments that have been collected up at the International Space Station. The version 2, or the human-rated version of this spacecraft, is soon to be ready. I think it's in another year, where it will be tested with actual flight-rated equipment on board, and will be used for transporting U.S. astronauts from Earth to from the United States to the International Space Station. So there's my rather inadequate thing on that as far as space history. Thanks to Tony for providing this material earlier today. That's it from there. I'll go ahead and give you what I have on Heavens Above. I don't have a lot. Apparently we're not in a real favorable position for passes this week, but I'll go ahead and give that information if you'd like me to do so.
Oh, please do.
All right, this comes from Heavens Above. This is the website, heavens-above.com. Just plug in your longitude and latitude information. You know you can find it, and it will give you passes. We look for visible passes going overhead. So I've only got a few. Tiangong 2, which is the new Chinese space station, which was launched earlier in the last few months. Tiangong 1, of course, had a fiery re-entry here a couple of weeks ago. So we have Tiangong 2. This one has one pass on May 7th. It's 2.6 magnitude at 5:54 a.m. our time. It will reach its highest point. I'm sorry, May 7th. Let me get that right. May 7th at 4:56 a.m. It'll start at 45 degrees, reach its highest point at 47 degrees at 4:57, and then fall at 5 p.m. So as this is traveling overhead, it will go through shadow in the process, and it will appear out of nowhere, actually through Draco, almost overhead, through Ursa Major, Cepheus, and then through Cassiopeia, straight through Cassiopeia. The only other really reasonable pass I can give you is OTV-5. This is the super secret U.S. Air Force winged lifting body. This is unmanned, of course, but it looks an awful lot like a space shuttle that we no longer launch, but has the similar technology. OTV-5 is probably on an extended mission. I would think this thing is probably going to stay in orbit at least a year, probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. Again, we don't know what its mission is. However, I would figure that reconnaissance and long duration effects in space is what the Air Force is looking at. So May 8th is the best pass. This one's at 55 degrees. So this one happens at 20:53 or 8:53 in the evening. Out of the north-northwest, reaches its highest point at 20:56, and then falls at 20:58. So looking at the map, this one's a pretty good pass. Goes through Ursa Major, Canis Veneti, I can never pronounce that. Our Constellation this evening as well, just past Jupiter, and then goes into shadow in the southeast. So, as I mentioned, all of this information is available at the heavensabove.com website, and you can, of course, pull any additional information you want on satellite passes as well, amateur satellite passes. So, if you would like to do some satellite work via radio, you can do so. This information is all freely available there. All the Kepler information is updated and accurate. So that's it from me. This is KE5ICX, back to net control.
Okay, thank you for that, Tom. This is KC50ZT. All right, before we have our final check-ins, does anyone have any questions about anything? If you have any last-minute check-ins, this will be final call. Tonight we had 23 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. Remember, on this net, the sky is never the limit. And we are always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow the topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. And I assume those charts for V392 will be on the website if you want to use them. And so, until next Saturday night, this is KC50ZT, Carolyn, and I will be closing the net at 10:26 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. But remember, stand by for Afterglow. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evenings discovering the universe. KC50ZT.
And we'll be doing tonight's movie review and critique, The Yesterday Machine, in about 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Come back then. And you don't have to necessarily have seen the movie because you may not want to have seen this movie. So come back here in about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. KE5ICX.
Normal state.
Completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
Then 5HYP. This is KE5ICX. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Afterglow? Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight we'll be talking about
and tearing apart or reconstructing the 1963 American film classic, The Yesterday Machine. You've never heard of it before? Probably after you watched it, you'll never want to hear about it again. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and give you a little synopsis about the film first before I do check-ins. I'd like to remind you, though, if you did not see the movie, that's okay. We have very good and lively discussions having everything to do with really bad movies from the 1950s and 60s. We even do any decade. We've gone back to the 30s all the way up to current films. In fact, we do field trips. We've gone to see current films as well as classic films that have been put on the large screen. One thing, don't forget, coming up here, I think it's May 16th or something, I think it is. I have to go back and look. 2001: A Space Odyssey is going to be out on film in 60 millimeter, maybe even 70 millimeter. I don't know if it's going to be in the Dallas area, but take a look and see if you would like to track that down while we do the net. That would be helpful too. Check in and let us know, where is 2001: A Space Odyssey going to be showing in May, as well as is it in Cinerama or in the wide format film? What do they call that thing? Format. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and give you a little synopsis about the film. Yesterday Machine is a 1963 American film written, directed, and produced by Russ Marker and featuring Tim Holt. Yeah, you know this guy. James Britton, Jack Herman, and Pellegrino, and Robert Bob Kelly. None of these people could act. A Nazi scientist invents a time machine to go back and alter the outcome of World War II. At least that's what they say. Critical response, that's it, by the way. That's the entire story. The interesting thing is throughout the movie, we never really get to see much time machine stuff. We get to see a lot of people talking with bad audio back and forth. So the reception is critical response. Critic Paul Gaeta penned the film. He wrote, quote, "The camp value of this off-kilter science fiction effort from Texas-based low-budget filmmaker Russ Marker is seriously undermined by a dreary pace comparable to a period educational film. This analogy reaches a terminal point when late in the film the scientist pulls out a board and begins drawing diagrams to help the captured reporter understand the workings of his machine and time travel in general. Pull light years from The Treasure of the Sierra Madre and even The Monster That Challenged the World would take a step further down the exploitation evolutionary scale with his next and final film, Herschel Gordon Lewis' dreadful hillbilly satire, This Stuff'll Kill Ya." This is KE5ICX. I'll be net control for tonight's Afterglow movie net, The Yesterday Machine from 1963. I will now take the roll call. Let's see, last time I did Echolink first. So this time I'll go ahead and take over air check-in. So if you'd like to join us over air, please come now with your call sign name. Let me know if you saw the movie. If you want to give me your location, that's fine too. You know the drill. Low power, short time first, I guess. Please come now.
Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I did not see the movie. NT5P.
N5BB, Bill in Irving. I did not see the movie, and I don't believe the show times for 2001 are available yet. It's supposed to be introduced during the month of May, but so far I can't find an exact date for a local showing. N5BB.
Echo Bravo Bravo. Low power, David in Dallas. I did see the movie.
let me go ahead and get the low power short time. I've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, low power. He didn't see the movie. Too bad. N5BB, Bill in Irving. Let's see. I think he's low power. He says no, he didn't see the movie, but he's looking up possible times for 2001. I think you're right, Bill. I don't think it's... yes, it's 2 hours and 29 minutes with intermission. I just got something from the peanut gallery. W5EVB. David in Dallas, yay! Low power, you did see the movie. Okay, let me go to general check-ins or anyone over there. Please come now with your call sign name. Let me know if you saw the yesterday machine.
And I saw the movie.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl, I did see the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom, I saw the movie.
Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Brendan DeSoto. I think I saw the movie, or maybe that was a bad acid trip.
Okay, general check-ins. I've got KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn, Louisville. Unfortunately, she saw the movie. KF5TSK, Pearl. Also, Dallas saw the movie. N5HYP, Tom in Irving. Yeah, he saw it. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto. Yeah, she saw the movie. Okay, any other RF check-ins? Please come now.
Golf 5, Whiskey Golf Hotel. This is Nick. I saw the movie.
Hey, I've got KG5WGH. Nick, he's back. I think he said that. Well, I don't know if he said Dallas, but he did see the movie. So kudos to you and everyone who has seen the movie and bad check-ins who didn't see the movie. Let me go to Echolink. Some of the usual suspects are there, some are not. We'll go ahead and take Echolink check-ins. Please give me your call sign, your name. Let me know if you saw the movie.
KG5 TNF, Johnny over here in Garland. No, I didn't see it. It sounds like it's a good thing, too.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington. Yes, I did see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 5, Romeo Hotel Echo, Brian, Fort Worth, did not see the movie.
Right, that extra time was both for Echolink and me writing stuff down. So here we have, over on Echolink, KG5TNF, Johnny and Garland, he didn't see the movie. KG5 is ZM Mike Golf. Joe and Garland, he saw the movie. My condolences. KV5RHE, Brian in Fort Worth, I didn't see it. And then I got David, KG5Z, Charlie Tango. He didn't see the movie, but I did get you checked in over on the chat box. All right. Final, well, not final check-ins, but last round before we get started. Anyone, any mode who would like to check in, please come now. Give me your call sign, your name. Let me know if you saw the Yesterday Machine from 1963.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Jay, near Weatherford, did not see. I did see the film.
All right, very good. I've got two check-ins. I got KG5Z Golf Quebec. Andre, welcome, Andre. Hooray, you didn't see the movie. That's good. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Yes, you saw the movie. Too bad. Okay, what we'll do then is this. There's opportunities for people to check in because we know there can be late check-ins on this net. Very late check-ins. All check-ins are late. It's 10:44 in the evening. So I'm going to start at the top. NT5TM, Tony. First thing we're going to do is talk about plot. What did you think of this fine plot? I'm going to take copious notes because I always have comments at the end. So NT5TM, Tony, what did you think of the plot for the Yesterday Machine? Go ahead.
Shame on me. I did not have time to see this fine masterpiece, and so I will mainly be listening. I may have some comments towards the end of the net about this sort of thing in general. NT5TM.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put an N by your name, so I'm sorry. Okay, next up, net recognizes N5BB. Bill did not see it. Bill, you just want to listen in, or you got any comments about time travel movies? Go ahead.
I think I'll just listen in. N5BB.
All right, my apologies to both of you. W5EVB, David in Dallas. Yes, you saw this fine movie. Go ahead. What do you got to say about the plot? Go ahead.
Well, I'll just first say, I actually liked this movie. I mean, for what it was actually not that horrible. Of course, it may be just, the bounce back from Battlefield Earth or whatever that was. No, the plot was not bad. It actually gave a rather intelligent spin on time travel, I thought. It actually had a cogent explanation of what could plausibly be a mechanism for it. Much more so than most movies that do address time travel. The action parts were comical. That aspect of it was just kind of ridiculous. But the setting, the juxtaposition of advanced, high-tech, futuristic anything and Texas usually are incongruous. But there are some exceptions. And this just showed us we got some smart folks here in Texas too. But it was, it was campy, but it had a heavy-handed moral message at the end. But overall, I thought the editing was horrible, but the story itself was not that bad. I didn't think. W5EBB.
Very good. So we got a semi-thumbs up on that one. Okay, we'll discuss that in a minute. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, your thoughts on this fine film?
1963, I can see it being a good drive-in movie, and there was some you might say interesting parts to the plot, or it moved along pretty well. There were some odd things, and it was all right, but I can't say I enjoyed it, but I didn't hate it or anything, but and there's ways it could have been better, but it's interesting, and filled in an evening, KC50ZT.
Miss Carolyn, filled in an evening. I'm not sure that's a really good promotion of this film, but I digress. KF5TSK, Burl, your thoughts on the plot?
This KF5TSK, I thought it was rather ridiculous, especially the ending that, you think it's time travel. The road was once paved, and now it's a dirt road, and when it's over, they break the time machine and come up out of the ground, and it's like, were they in Germany? Well, if they were in the U.S., what were they doing? Did they eat? Or did they stay under the ground for years? KF5TSK back to net.
All right, very good. I'm putting an asterisk by this one. Okay. Next up, N5HYP. Tom and Company, what did you think of the plot to tonight's movie, The Yesterday Machine from 1963?
Good evening, Tom and the Net. This is N5HYP. The plot, such as it was kind of, in my book, sleep-inducing. It moved along pretty slow, a lot of which had to do with the budget constraints that this small little movie had. Obviously, this was probably a good Saturday afternoon matinee, or like Carolyn said, drive-in movie fodder from the early 60s. If it were a drive-in movie, most of the couples that were there watching it probably didn't see much of it anyway, so they really didn't miss much. The plot, had some interesting concepts. It was fine in that regard, but yes, it moved very slow. The acting did not help, and we'll talk about that later. And the lack of budget did not help. That we'll talk about later. But I managed to stay awake despite itself. This is N5HYP, back to net.
All right, thank you, Tom. Actually didn't help, stayed awake. Acting didn't help, stayed awake. Okay, I've got that down. Next up, WB5OZL. Miss Brenda, you saw the film. Your comments on the plot.
WB5OZL. It was awful. Well, really, it wasn't a lot worse than a whole lot of other movies we've seen, but it got kind of muddled at the end. I wasn't quite sure how sending this girl into the future was going to help Hitler take over the world, and I wasn't even sure how the time machine fit into the whole world domination scheme. And the guy was certifiably crazy, and it wasn't clear to me, had he been around for decades and hidden underground, or did he just come? And how come the leaves didn't fall off the roof when they the door when they lifted it up to go down into his laboratory? So there were a lot of holes. I loved all the whimsical accent, so the people, you could tell they're from Texas. However, they pronounced Stephenville wrong. It's Stephenville if you are from that area. And my family is from Comanche County, so we know how to pronounce it. It's a little hard to tell some of the people apart, and I just, it just, it was just kind of like watching a dog get run over or something. It's just like, this is painful. All right, back to Nat. AAVSO.
All right, yes. Okay, so I've summarized and said this is like watching a dog getting run over. Not a very uplifting analysis of this fine film. Okay, let's see. Here we have KG5WGH. Nick, you saw the movie. Tell us what you think about the plot.
Yeah, this is KG5WGH. I'm in Carrollton, by the way. Oh, man, that plot. Wasn't that something? So, yeah, I felt like it was starting off a little slow, so I was wondering how they were going to transition us into the time travel bit and get down to the mad scientist there. But it wasn't the amazing physics of time travel that was the craziest thing going on. That would be our dear lieutenant. Making that leap from a rumor he heard when he was overseas, now coming back decades later, or a couple of decades later, finding out that, hey, this was this time-traveling mad scientist that was in Germany at the time. So that was a pretty fun leap, and kind of destroyed the plot there, but I felt like that kind of turned up the meter on the craziness to the plot. But I also wondered what these... This guy has a problem with people escaping, obviously, right? So we have these Confederate soldiers that got out, but then later, when our main cast of characters escapes and comes into his lab, he seems a little shocked. But it seems like he's already had a problem with people escaping, so I have no idea why he would be shocked. And then we didn't really get to, like others have said, we didn't get to really see a lot of what he was actually trying to leverage from the time travel to make any of this come out. It all seemed very, very random. This is KG5WGH, back to net control.
All right, I summarize people escaping, and he seems surprised about how he can't seem to keep his time-traveling people in one place. Good point. Let's see, KG5TNF. Johnny, in Garland, I know you didn't see the movie. You got anything you want to say about time travel, or are you really interested in seeing this fine film? Go ahead.
Well, I'd really like to see it. I'm always up for a weird movie. I've got a collection of what I call my bad motorcycle movies, so need to start a sci-fi section too. Yeah, I'll probably be looking it up and checking it out. Remember the time tunnel back in the day there? Anywho, KG5TNF listening.
All right, Johnny, I'm sure we're probably about the same age. I absolutely loved and hated the time tunnel. It was a fine show, and we'll probably get into some discussion about that because this movie reminded me of it a bit. Okay, KG5ZMG Golf. Joe, over in Garland, you saw this film. What do you think about the plot?
Well, I didn't think the plot was too bad. It seemed to break up at the end. The mad scientist was trying to get Hitler back, but then he was trying to make people live forever, and they were going to somehow control time and control human longevity. Like the other people, I thought the acting was pretty bad, and it made it a lot harder to watch. So I think it was kind of like a colonoscopy. You knew what was coming, and you knew you weren't going to enjoy it. So, KG5ZMG.
Thank you very much, Joe. That's about right. It's like getting a colonoscopy and knowing what's going to happen next. All right. Excellent. KB5RHE, Brian over in Fort Worth. No, you didn't see the movie, but what do you think about time travel? Are you interested in seeing this movie? Go ahead. This is KE5ICX. He may have left, so I'm going to put a little check by his name. KG5 is Zed, Charlie Tango, David. You saw the movie, but, or you did not see the movie. You got anything on time travel? You want to see this movie, right? Go ahead. I think he was over on Echolink, so those are come and go, folks. Let's see. I've got KG5Z Golf Quebec. Andre. See, are you still there? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. I can't see you. What'd you think of the movie? And would you go and watch this thing? Have some good films too that we review, and sometimes our reviews of the bad films are actually more detailed than the good films because there's so much to say. So don't worry about it. If you hear something, just shout out, and you want to say something, just shout out. Okay, last and certainly not least, KG5BZW, Jay near Weatherford. You saw the movie. Tell us about the plot. What'd you think?
This is KG5BZW. There's a lot that's, I don't know, the film, I'll confess it had there's something kind of, some interesting ideas. Just the execution of just kind of, it's like the big illogical jump that to get to the time travel is kind of one of the biggest problems. But it continued to be like that. I don't know. It was a film that I just didn't want to think about too much. And in fact, I didn't think too much about it until I heard I hope I can get the quote right, but it was very much help us, Didi Yama, you're our only hope. And I'm like, okay, wow. Not that there's that many ways to say that, but you're our only hope. Yeah, interesting later films using that, you know which ones. Like I said, it actually wasn't as horrible as I thought it would be, in that it wasn't terribly irritating to me, but it just kind of, it was just kind of something to watch in the background while I'm doing something else and not think about too much, because there just wasn't much to think about. KG5 Easy, Debbie.
I don't disagree, Jay. There's a lot to that. Okay, I'll go ahead and pause for a minute before I give my comments. Any additional check-ins tonight for tonight's movie, The Yesterday Machine from 1963? Whether you saw it or not, or you just want to make your presence known and shake your fist in the air, it's okay. Please come now with your call sign name. Let me know if you saw this fine film. Right, that's fine. Here are my comments on the film. Thank you all for your comments on the plot. Here's some things that I thought was rather interesting about the film, or not interesting. When you have a time machine, okay? When you have a time machine, there is travel through time. That's sort of the point of having a time machine, so that people can experience you from the future or sometimes from the past, and you have an opportunity to interact with these people. It's exciting. It's fun. You can use colloquialisms. You can do all these fun things. You can say what's going to happen in the future. You can kill Hitler. You can do whatever you want. And then you have a nosebleed from all of the paradoxical things that occur with it. Did we get any of that? No, we did not. Not even close. It's like having a movie where you have, let's say, I don't know, I wrote down The Fast and the Furious, compliments of who was talking about their motorcycle movies. TNF. Johnny did. He mentioned his motorcycle movies. And I thought, and I wrote down the note. It's like Fast and Furious, only without the Fast or the Furious. It's like the guys that are there that are about to get in the cars and then take off. You expect a race. You expect great things. Let me reset. You are expecting something exciting to happen. And that's a time travel movie. You're expecting cool things to happen. Instead, we get a chalkboard and a guy explaining time and how it works on a chalkboard, and not doing a very good job of writing it on a chalkboard, except when they break away, and he's doing this like really bad orbiting thing, and then I guess that's because of the space program was just getting off the ground, literally. You look at it and you go, okay, fine. This is great. You're not telling me anything, and we're yawning. Okay? This is not good. Next up is the evil lair, and that would be, you got what's his name, Professor Ernst von Hauser. He has managed to drill out underground these large, it looks like a large facility to put his time machine in. Didn't anybody notice him with heavy equipment digging these things out? How about the fact that there's got to be large mounds of dirt somewhere, and that it's in the middle of nowhere, so people should notice the dirt and go, Maud, did you notice there's a lot of dirt on the side of the road? Could it be that crazy German scientist guy? I don't know. Or, if we don't know about von Hauser, then maybe, that empty house down up the side of the road? There's a lot of dirt around. You think maybe we should investigate, maybe call the sheriff? No, that didn't happen either, did it? Also, if you're going to build a time machine, you got to know what the heck you're going to do with the time machine. If the time machine is supposed to go back in time, will you take some notes and write them down and say the purpose of the time machine is to, and then bullet them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Starting at the top, probably with Hitler, because we want to go back to World War II, and we got the little Nazi flag thing going on and all of that. So, you got this little agenda going. Well, what's he going to do when you bring him back? Are you going to bring anybody else back with him? Is Ava coming back? Don't know. The guy didn't think this through. He's busy talking about how this is such a great idea, but he didn't write anything down. What the heck kind of science is that? You know, you got a blackboard. Use the blackboard. That's what I say. I'm shaking my fist in the air. I demand better from B-rated movies. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. We're talking about the fine film. What is this thing? The Yesterday Machine, a 1963 American film. So let me go to the top. Let me go to the top of the list and ask about characterization. Characterization. This is all important. Let's see. Tony didn't see it. Bill did not see it. However, if either of you would like to make a comment, please come now. Right, silence is golden or something, I don't know. W5EVV, David, characterization, your comment.
Well, I thought Van Houser, I guess, deserved a little more credit than you're giving him, because he was just one of the stereotypical technocrats, I guess, or just somebody who was all about, you know, just the technology and just being enthralled with it. And he was so excited to actually be able to describe this, kind of like a villain from Batman likes to, you know, tell Batman how this mechanism works that's going to, you know, kill him so that they can deactivate it later. You know, but he was just overly enthusiastic about the technology of it. And of course the purpose was not a very popular one that he wanted to use it for. Now, the other missing element here is the young girl did go into the future briefly, and yet we don't hear anything about that experience. Were they planning to describe that in a sequel, maybe? I hope not. Some interesting things about that was described earlier, some scenes that were very reminiscent of future movie scenes. You know, you're our only hope. You know, you save us, you're our only hope. And the Egyptian lady that they were talking to had a hood that looked just like Princess Leia's hood, different colors, in A New Hope. That scene was just about exactly the same shot. Out of it. Jim Crandall, the reporter, when the lady starts getting hysterical outside, he says, "Get a hold of yourself," and slaps her across the face. Airplane, the movie. Get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of yourself. You know, that was like round one of that scene, but it was reminiscent of that. I guess in the days before Xanax, a firm slap to the face was an appropriate remedy to any kind of hysteria. One last thing about the character Von Hauser. He hand drew the most perfect prolate spheroid on that chalkboard I've ever seen. So, again, credit is due. All right, that's it. W5EBB.
All right. Excellent. Yeah, perfect spheres. And it got better when there was a quick cutaway. All right. Interesting. You made some interesting thoughts for me. Let's see. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn. Characterizations. Tell us.
As far as the women in the report, that's almost typical behavior that they had for a lot of the movies back then, you know. And then regarding the scientist, though, down there, you'd think he would explain more about what he was going to do. I mean, and also, why was he to send somebody to the future if he was wanting to bring back the Germany and everything. He didn't really explain that. And, a lot of it was just, being held prisoner, then escaping, and, looks like they could have made more of the Egyptian woman, but, she didn't really have much to do except there at the end, but it was sort of stereotype. Let me reset. In the same way with the two detectives, they tried, usually reporters and police don't work together like they were doing, but anyway, had to have some unusual behavior, but it reminded me more like a TV show than a movie, you might say. KH50ZT.
All right, thank you, Miss Carolyn. Yes, I think the Egyptian lady should have done more too, but that's just me. Let's see. We have Burl, KFITSK. You're next. Tell us characterizations. Go ahead.
Well, the first thing that I noticed was, the two soldiers from the Civil War. My first thought was maybe this is a ghost movie somehow with time travel. You have someone who claims to be working for Germany, but the uniforms are something different, and I could just see that if they were caught wearing that, they would be assumed to be spies or something. And also I guess the guard was stabbed in the back with a knife, and he was still walking around, it didn't affect him at all. KF5TS came back to that.
Okay, thank you. I'm writing notes on that because you just brought up a whole new category that I want to talk about. N5HYP, Tom, your comments about plot. Characterization. Go ahead.
K5ICX in the net. This is N5HYP. Characterization, it was just pretty shallow. Again, the acting, actually, I was driven nuts by the really bad overdubbing of the voice of the lines. It just, was kind of obnoxious to me that it felt so unnatural. Also, your comment about the old that you put in one of your Facebook posts, Tom, the world's oldest teenagers. Well, to their defense, they were college students, so they might have been 20 or 21. But yeah, they didn't look that old. I mean, they definitely looked a heck of a lot older than they should have been for 21. Things that bothered me. I mean, at the beginning, you had this long sequence with this girl doing the cheerleading thing while the guy's playing with the card, and it just took forever for you to be allowed to figure out what was happening there. Later on, you had this really long scene in the nightclub with the sister of the missing college student singing, and it just kind of went on with dancing, and then the little dance sequence at the beginning, and then the lady singing basically an entire song before we move the plot forward. So again, this is kind of back to the plot, that they had to fill some space to make it a movie-length movie. So they drugged some of these scenes out forever to be able to finally move the plot forward. And they did it with really poor characterizations, very stereotypical, as Carolyn mentioned. Kind of hard to watch. This is N5HYP, back to that.
All right, thank you, Tom. Plotting plot that they're filling stuff in with. Okay, this is KE5ICX. WV5OZL, Miss Brenda, your comments on characterization.
This is WV5OZL. Did I tell you that I had a root canal last week?
Yes, you did. Somehow you're going to tie this into the pain of this movie. But I do not wish to lead the witness. Please go ahead.
Well, I keep confusing the root canal with the scientist's explanation of science. It was endless and painful, and he was the hardest thing to watch in my mind. The girl twirling, and usually I'm a big fan of twirling and little skirt twirling, but she wasn't all that good, and her voice was like chalk on fingers on a chalkboard, and her boyfriend was stupid, and the singer, she just fell apart all the time, and sank into the guy's arms. They barely knew each other, and they're already like on a date, and everything was so illogical. This is how you make a time machine. The scientist makes a time machine out of a DeLorean or a sleigh bed, and he gets in it, and he sets the dials, and he travels through time, and he has all these adventures, and then he comes back. Didn't this guy want to go himself? And it was like a one-way thing. He just pushed the button, and they went somewhere, and he just kept losing people. How many people can you lose? You have to capture some more. And to me, it was just very illogical. I just didn't understand the whole point of the time machine, what that was about, and why he was curious to go himself and see what happened in the past or happened in the future. There was just nobody in here that I liked at all, which is kind of unusual. That's all I have for now. WV5OZL.
All right, thank you for those fine comments, Brenda. Let's see. I've got next up KG5WGH, Nick in Carrollton. What do you think about the characterizations?
Yeah, this is KG5WGH. Well, yeah, a couple people have mentioned it. I did find it unfortunate that they went with the stereotypical female characters of the time, because they were on screen a lot, and they really could have helped fill in and flesh out that story a little more. And the younger sister could have let us know what happened when she time traveled, and the older one could have, let us into some character building of what her little sister is, or what she might be feeling, or those types of things. So that was pretty unfortunate part. And then our reporter, man, I feel like he probably wouldn't have been in that position in the good graces at that point, because I feel like he must have made a lot of bad decisions, because he started out going on a vacation, and then he heard this really, really crazy wild story that most people would find highly unlikely, and just based on kind of a rumor from that guy remembering something 20 years ago, he just tossed all his plans out the windows and made a complete direction change and changed what he was doing in his life at that moment. And wow, then we have the lieutenant. He should not be working out there in that little town police office's detective. He should be off solving all the world's problems, because the way he made that leap, he beat out Sherlock Holmes and every Agatha Christie detective that has ever been written. He should just be somewhere else. And our mad scientist, he was just who he was. I don't know that I have a lot. He was kind of what I expected. He was pretty out there and pretty crazy. This is KG5 WGH, back to net control.
All right, excellent, Nick. Not everyone remembers Detective Lasky, and you did. So it is most appreciated. This is excellent work on your part, and the fact that you him, kudos for what he did. The Sherlock Holmes aha moment. The game is afoot. All right, next up, let's see here. I'm going to jump down to Joe, because he saw the movie, KG5ZMG. I think you're still out there. Joe, what do you think of characterization?
Well, I kept thinking that the mad scientist was possibly Alfred from the old 1960s Batman movie. I kept looking twice to see if it was the same guy playing the part. I was also really impressed with the young man as he was repairing the fuel pump, apparently while it was still mounted to the engine block of the car on the side of the road. Didn't seem to have any tools other than a rag, and the only thing that was holding him back was the girl was playing the radio too loud for him. I was also interested that the Confederate soldiers were not surprised when the kids showed up. The kids were surprised at them and to see them in their attire, but the Confederate soldiers just start shooting at them. And finally, the doctor, he cracked me up. A guy comes in to see him, and he's offering him whiskey, and he has a rack of pipes there like he owns a tobacco store or something. Just cracked me up seeing that. Back to net control, KG5ZMG.
Thank you, Joe. Well, he's lonely. He's got the abandoned house upstairs, and he's got this meandering tunnels underneath, and he's got two of those guys. Well, I got something to say about those guys here in a little bit. Let's see here. Next up. Let's see, Brian checked out, David checked out, KGZ Golf Quebec. Oh, well, let's see, Andre, he might be there. He has an interest. Andre, you got any comments? Go ahead. He's either listening, ran away, or is earnestly watching the movie. KG5BZWJ, near Weatherford. What do you have to say about characterization?
This is KG5BZW. Not much to say. The doctor was, Dr. Hauser was kind of interesting. Reminded me a little bit of Dr. Strangelove, but of course Dr. Strangelove came first. I don't know. Of course, Dr. Strangelove was a lot more funny. Just, whatever. Excuse me. Okay. It's moving around. Everybody was pretty much forgettable and stereotypical, and no growth of any characters whatsoever. The doctor was probably the only one that could have grown, and he just died and vanished. Oh wow. I can't really say anything else. KG5BZW, back to net.
Very good, Jay. No problem. It's hard to mine gold when you're in a sand pit or a tar pit. So it's understandable. I think everybody's done a really good job so far. Gosh, I got 2.5 pages of single-line notes from what everybody said about this film. Okay, well, characterization I thought personally was kind of thin. The acting was terrible. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Everybody was horrible. Tim Holt should have been better than what he was, but he had nice hair, perfect hair, you know. You got to give him credit for that. One of the things I thought was interesting on the side is the henchmen. You had two henchmen. They're wearing the uniforms and everything. They're doing the German thing, but they're not very good at it. Who's going to pay for this? I mean, does von Hauser have like tons of money to do all of this? He had to dig all that stuff out. So I'm wondering how these guys, and why are they in uniform? I mean, they're underground. Nobody sees them that often. Don't they get like a leisure Friday or something? Why do they have to wear that hats and the whole thing? I don't know. It just seemed kind of odd. I would think that von Hauser would have his little, armband and today is Friday thing, but it was kind of weird that way that it didn't really play out. All the characters were somewhat unfocused. Anything that they said, based on the acting, of course, and I guess I'll put that into characterization. Everything was so bad when it came to the script itself. Wasn't that terrible, but the acting was just so subpar that you couldn't get into any of the characters. It was 555, 1212 all through the movie. And I will tell you, I've seen a number of amateur films through the years. I've watched the Star Trek ones all the time, knowing that, you've got limited Star Trek and the acting is going to be marginal, but the acting in some of those films is actually, or those shows, is much better than what I saw in a film where they supposedly had some sort of a budget, not much of one apparently. So, I don't know. All right, this is what I'm going to do. It's 11:30. I'm going to open it up. The next topic is the technical aspects of the film. So rather than calling on everybody individually, I'm just going to go ahead and ask. If you got comments on the technical aspects of the film, please come with your call sign now, and I will put you on the list.
AAVSO.
H5OZT.
V5OZL.
KG5VMG.
Very good. I'm going to acknowledge everybody who checked in. I've got KF5TSK, I've got KC5OZT, WD5OZL, and I've got KG5ZMG in that order. So I'm going to start at the top. KF5TSK. Burl, go ahead. Your comments on the technical aspects of the film.
Looking at that time machine, it had a meter on it, I guess 3 or 4 knobs that I think it would be hard to believe even for the 60s that, this thing actually worked. You have 2 poles, look like Tesla coils, and, this chair that Or why would you tie someone down to a chair and send them either to the future or the past? It really didn't make a lot of sense. Can't find PSK back to net.
Thank you, Burl. KC50ZT, your comments on the technical part of this film.
Okay, on the time machine, it was just nothing more, didn't seem to be much more than just flashing lights. I mean, of course, and on poles, but it just seemed sort of cheap, you might say. Let me reset. I might say, though, that the thing that it sort of made you laugh the first time you saw it, but the entrance and everything, you notice that was going in and out of a grave, or, well, a false grave, obviously, but that seemed to strike an odd tone, KC50ZT.
You knew that was going to happen at some point, yes. Well, there's all, you don't have any budget, you use what you got. So, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, technical aspects of this fine film. Go ahead. This is KE5I6.
WB5OZL. Yeah, if I were going to build an underground laboratory, why would I build it underneath a graveyard? To me, the possibilities are really pretty horrible. A lot of the continuity was just awful. The kids walked forever, even though it was just down the road, and then it got dark. And for some reason, these Civil War people decided to shoot for no good reasons, total strangers. And then it takes the guy about a minute to get back to his car. And, things just didn't make any sense. And equipment-wise, I thought it was pretty cheesy, his time machine and all that. Although, at one point, they had a bank of equipment. I thought, oh, he's got a ham rig, sort of. One thing we always get in these old movies, at least some stock footage of an old airplane. And we didn't have that this time, and I really wish we had, because sometimes that's like the saving grace of the movie. So I give it points against it just because of that. They could have gotten stock footage anywhere. It wouldn't cost them anything. All right, back to net, WB5OZL.
And this is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Joe, KG5ZMG, you have comments about the technical aspects of this fine film. Please go ahead. The net is yours.
Well, some of the plot holes that I saw. Van Houser, he kept equating speed and velocity, and no scientist would do that. They treat them as two different qualities, because velocity is speed plus a direction. So they would never say that they're the same thing. I also thought it was interesting, you had mentioned how did they move all that dirt out and get rid of it. Well, at one point, Von Hauser explains that there's a nuclear battery, I assume that meant a reactor, that was underneath the underground lab. So apparently there were more floors going down, and even more dirt had to be hidden somewhere when they dug out the room to build that reactor. And then also thought it was funny, I kept watching the film expecting the old standby Jacob's ladder with the electricity arcing up between the V-shaped wires to appear somewhere, and they didn't let me down. Right towards the end, they actually had a Jacob's ladder in there, so I'll give them a thumbs up for working that into it. KG5ZMG back to net control.
All right, I agree with you. You need a Jacob's ladder in every movie where there's some sort of exotic electronic device, either to regenerate people or send them forward or back in time, or to otherwise make it. They don't use it for torture, though. It seems like it'd be a good one for that, but that's just me, I guess. Okay, I don't have a lot to say on the technical aspects of the film. Well, I do have this. I thought it was interesting that at the beginning, they had voiceovers, they had very good sound, had great music, but I'll do that for the next round if there is one. But the audio at least started out pretty good, and then, which apparently was voiceovers, and then we got into actual sets, and the microphones were like out in the parking lot somewhere, and they're shouting. It is always a very good indicator of how bad a movie is when it comes to details such as sound. In my job that I have currently, sound is everything. It's completely different from what I do, but it's very important that the sound works. If you don't have the sound correct, then it is distracting. People aren't listening to what's happening. What they're listening to is the fact the sound doesn't project correctly. It's extremely important that that is consistent. It's also it has to be from one scene to the next. It has to sound the same. I guess that's consistency, what I'm talking about. But even from scene to scene, not only in a particular scene. Oh, I digress. You know what I mean. The microphone too far away doesn't sound right, and that definitely takes you out of the moment. Another 555-1212. All right, this is KE5ICX. I'm babbling, and I'm net control this evening. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for one final round. You got something to say about this movie that you haven't said so far? It's wide open. Please come with your call sign.
Whiskey 5, Echo, Bravo, Bravo. I must have doubled. I had some technical discussion as well.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Comments about 2001, Space Odyssey.
KG5, WGH.
Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Echo 5, Romeo, Romeo, Romeo.
All right, I will do a second round here in just a second because I was surprised we had so many responses. I got W5EBB. David, I acknowledge you. N5BD. Bill, I'll get to you. Let's see, W2. KG5WCH, Nick, I got you. And NT5TM Tony. And KE5RRR Melvin, I got you. So I'll start at the top. KG5, I'm sorry, W5EBB. David, go ahead with your comments.
All right, I'll be quick. Just to point the mounds of dirt and why nobody said anything is because Van Housen basically paid off the neighbors by sending them on a vacation to 1279 BC Egypt, and that's where they are still. So that's why nobody reported it. Well, that's a guess. Now, I remember vividly from high school, we went to TCU as we were kind of surveying what colleges we might want to go to. And we went to the physics department, and there was a professor there who claimed he had a laser configuration that was a time travel device. And it was kind of similar in concept. He had a laser reflecting off of multiple mirrors, and then it went in reverse and went back to the original point. And somehow this PhD professor was claiming that that was an instance of it going back in time when it retraced its path. But he was a PhD physics professor, and this was his little time machine. Now, it could be that he was seeing something in the return path that was visible too soon, perhaps, or something about the interferometry. Or it might have just been minus waves, W5 EBB.
Right, very good, David. Interesting. Now, I have to tell you, I will make this side comment, but I'll make it short, is I did interferometry too. I did it when I was in high school, and we did 3D pictures. So the guy who showed myself and someone else how to do that kind of made it magical, and a 3D with laser system was kind of cool. So why not time travel, project that into it a bit, and you can do anything you want. Okay, N5VV, Bill, you have comments about 2001. What's the update? And any comments you want to bring?
Oh my, this is N5VV. By the way, around 44 years ago, I'm an old guy, I worked in a laser lab, and we did all kinds of, this is University of Texas in Austin, I was helping build some lasers. But somehow I think that there's some incorrect information there somehow. You can, in some cases, cool down a collection of atoms in such a way that light going through them travels very slowly. But that's not a time machine. And just reflecting something back doesn't mean it's going backwards in time. So there are Maxwell's equations. There are there's both the forward and the retarded waves, and some people have wanted to view the other one, not the normal one we think about, as things going backwards in time. But there's no physical realization of that anybody's been able to find so far. Anyway, changing the topic. 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'm getting ready to send an email out to selected people here on the net whose email address I have. And it appears that the only locations that are listed so far, the closest one that's really scheduled is, let's see, Chicago. So the movie is being released, it's being shown at the Cannes Film Festival in France on May the 12th. This is the 2001 Space Odyssey 70 millimeter photographic chemical print. In other words, no digitizing involved. There's been a lot of work on this. And it's going to be shown at the Cannes Film Festival on May the 12th. And then the limited release starts on May the 18th in Chicago, New York City, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, Hollywood area. But it's going around the country, and I see that it will be supposedly released at Alamo Draft House in Austin sometime in July, and some other Alamo Draft Houses. But so far, none of the ones here in the Dallas area. There are several now in the Dallas area. So we will see. They have to have a 70-millimeter film projector, which isn't common anymore for this particular process. So places that showed the Dunkirk movie had to use that particular projector. That's all I got in 5BD. Sorry to go on for so long.
Very good, Bill. And yeah, I saw the same thing, and I read the same article, and I've come to the same conclusion about Austin being the closest location. So we'll confer and see what may come forward in the near future, because I'd like to see them do it here in Dallas. It's a big market, but that's me. All right, let's see here. Who's next? WGH. Oh, God. I think it's KG5WGH. Go ahead. You had comments. That would be Nick. Go ahead.
All right, yeah, this is KG5WGH. Yeah, I just had a couple of little details to add that had kind of bugged me. One was when they had the reporter and the sister were looking for the lady, and they came back out to the road, and they started realizing all those details were different, and that their barbed wire fence was now wood. And for the time setting, that wood was all very nice and smooth and uniform and pretty well lined up, which is not to say that's impossible. There's a lot of good craftsmen during that time, but it just seemed like for the area and the type of fence that it was intended to be, that you'd go much for function over form, and you wouldn't have worried about that. So I thought that was a pretty darn good-looking fence for what they had going there. The other detail was when our captive was transported out. She went out to the future, and then they brought her back. She was still in a nice resting sitting position, tied into her chair. And now did he send a chair to the future to make sure there was one on the other side? Because she was teleported out, the chair was there, I believe, and then she came back into it and didn't seem to be rumpled around. So that was just a couple of things that jumped out at me. KG5WGH, back to net control.
You make very good points, Nick. You're paying attention. Detailed analysis is important. I like that a lot, yes. And on both counts, the chair and the fence, what's going on here. I think we need a trip to, IKEA, and critically analyze what's good and bad about furniture, both past, present, and future. I get it. I think your points, I thought of that too about the fence. It looked too good for the time period that it was supposed to be in, but who knows? What is it? Pyramids have, what is it? Walls that you couldn't slide a knife into? Okay. Anyway, NT5TM, Tony, you still there? You got some comments of some sort. Go ahead. This is KE5ICX.
I was hoping to hear better news about 2001. Sad to hear that. But thinking of the only other Texas-made movie like this that I've ever seen, Manos, The Hands of Fate, there does seem to be something about cheap movies that they do a lot of stretching to pad things out. Very, very long walks to get from one room to the other. Very, very long drives. Endless scenes of people driving from one place to another. Because, actually having something happen costs money. NT5TM. Good night.
W5OZL.
Oh, my. Okay. I'm going to sneak her in. WB5OZL. Go ahead. Thanks, Tony. Have a good evening.
This is about 2001. It is being shown at the Paramount Theater in Austin in 70 millimeters on August 17th and 18th. And here's the thing. I know that the Paramount has this summer movie festival, and some of the movies are shown in 70, like the same weekend Lawrence of Arabia is. So I ran over there to their summer movie list, and I did not see 2001 listed. And it is there now, so they may have dumped something else to make room for it, given that 2001 is just now available. Sounds like a road trip. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Right, very good. Thank you, Miss Brenda. And just for the record, when I first came to Dallas in 1989, I think it was 1990, there was some revivals, digital stuff that had been done both to Lawrence of Arabia and 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey the first weekend, and then watched Lawrence of Arabia the second weekend here in Dallas. So I have fond memories of doing that simply because I love both those movies. And if anybody knows me long enough, that I will tell you that my favorite movie of all time is actually Lawrence of Arabia, my favorite film. I can sit and stare at that for hours, followed closely by 2001. All right, let's see here. KE5RRR, Melvin, you got any comments, or you're just checking in? Go ahead, if you're still there.
Well, I must confess, I got halfway through the movie, and I guess I dozed off, but from what I saw, it really wasn't that impressionable. I did see what he meant about the fences, and that's about the last I remember of it. E5RRR, I saw it in conventional.
Oh, trust us. You are not alone. This one was a dry film. This was like a turkey that had sat way too long in the oven. So you are not alone. Others fell asleep. I'm sure people won't admit it. This needs a 12-step program, so I get it. I do have some comments, too, on this one. I will say, I thought that the music was interesting. It was a mishmash of a lot of different things. I think there was some sound libraries that were channeled. But to be honest with you, I kind of liked the jazz thing. That was a very big deal back in the 50s, mid-50s, even going in maybe into the early 60s, although it was starting to run its course. It does make for an interesting kind of theme in the background, but the action on screen could not match the music. So the jazz quartet, whatever, running in the background, at least at the beginning of the film, was quite good. Then there was some other stuff that came in that was nondescript and weird and didn't quite match up, so they managed to somehow find other still music to make the thing happen. So I actually kind of liked the score right up to the point that they ran out of score. And I think they just repeated and looped music after that a little bit, too. So those are my comments. Anyone else have any final comments before we talk about what next week's movie is? Please come down.
W5EBB.
N5HYP. Okay, I'll make my comment. I fell asleep during this whole review process. That's how bad. So for the last guy who fell asleep halfway through, that's how bad this was. Can't wait to see what next week is. Please let it be something to keep us awake. This is N5HYP next to Matt.
N5BB, still the comment.
Okay, all right, everybody back. Down, back over there. No snacks until I get control of the net. Let's see, W5EB. David, you had comments first. I'm net control, so you get to go first, even though you're second, and then I'll pick up these other two. Go ahead, or one.
For those who did not like this movie, let me just quote Lawrence of Arabia. The trick, Mr. Potter, is not minding that it hurts. Actually, I only know that because of Prometheus. But it's true, the music had kind of a Ocean's 11 heist caper kind of a quality, and I did enjoy the music. The lip-synced song and the kind of jazz quartet, whatever it was, I thought it was pretty nice. Now, as for the leap of faith that was taken by two characters in the movie, the policeman, to make the leap that tied this event to the one from the war, and the decision that the Egyptian lady made. These were inspired moments. They weren't logical necessarily, but it's pivotal. I mean, I'm trying to glorify this movie when it doesn't deserve it, but it's a significant character trait that turns the tide sometimes, when you just don't go by logic, but you go by instinct, and you're waiting for that flicker of intuition and inspiration to kindle, and then the scales immediately go unswervingly toward the confident choice that you end up making that, changes everything. W5EBB.
All right, David. Thanks so much for your comments. And by the way, you picked my favorite line from Lawrence of Arabia, so kudos to you. Okay, I got Tom's comments, and now Bill, N58. Bravo, Bill. What do you have for us?
I just was trying to catch Brenda before she left. This is N5BB. Brenda, if you're still here, please double-check your information about the Paramount Theater. I think you were talking about the August the 17th, 2017, that's last year's showing of the old print. This is the new print that's coming up here, being released at Cannes Film Festival on May the 12th. And I think we're talking about two different things. I think you're talking about last year's showing. N5BB.
V392.
Go ahead.
Well, I clicked on a link that was for this year, so I don't know. I guess we should investigate that. I'm pretty sure they showed it last year. They do this every year. But, well, I guess we can figure it out. There's plenty of time. Alrighty, back to net, W50ZL.
N5BB, additional comment?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, the difference is, Brenda, the old original print, which is, of course, incredibly old now, 50 years old, or the new print, which is just pulled from the original negatives and is supposed to be really amazing. So that's the difference, is the old thing versus the new one. Also, for a point of reference, since you're talking about Lawrence of Arabia, I saw that when I was like 9 years old, when it originally came out, late 62, early 63. I was pretty young, but man, the movie just immediately stuck in my brain. And of course, it was repeated many other times in the radio and television. But that original presentation of that music in the movie theater and the vast open panorama of Arabia was really amazing. It made a big effect on me. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. That's exactly how I felt about the film. The interesting thing, of course, we're digressing now a little bit, but that film had a huge impression upon me when I first saw it. I have bought it at big, unbelievable prices for Laserdisc and then Blu-ray later on, and I had it on VHS beta before that, so I've bought that film multiple times. But the one thing that I just absolutely adore about that film is everything. Music is paramount, followed by the cinematography and everything else. But I digress. It's my favorite movie of all time, so it's difficult for me not to talk about it. In the end, okay, here's what we'll do. Any final comments? And before I unload the next movie, please come now.
W5EBB.
5EBB. David, go ahead.
W5FC. Just real quick, the guy who plays Van Helsing, look him up on IMDb, and you might be amazed. 3 movies to his credit. He died in 1971, and he has no birth date. Ooh, W5EBB.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
Oh my, this could go on forever. Interesting. Okay, so we don't know if he's real or not, or an alien who's come down and spread his word amongst the rest of us. Okay. All right, here's what we're doing next week. Now, everybody remember this. A Boy and His Dog from 1973. It is available online. This film is based on a Harlan Ellison story. Science fiction writer. He's still around. He's 1,001 years old. This was an R-rated movie, so I am warning all of you. This version is available somewhere. I think it's over on archive.org or on YouTube. Either way, this is an unusual film because it is Harlan Ellison, one of my favorite writers, although he's a horrible human being. Yes, you can like somebody and hate him at the same time. So, Boy and His Dog next week from 1975, right here. So this is KE5ICX. I'm going to say good night, everybody, and thank you for a really good discussion on a really bad movie. I had 1, 2, 3, 4 full pages of notes from this thing. That's amazing. I think that's a record for me. 7-3, everybody. Have a good evening. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.